Okay, so welcome to video number 2. So you'll need the second worksheet for this, and this is about showing and not telling, which is a pretty important skill when it comes to creative writing. And I'm just going to demonstrate this by reading out a couple of little extracts that I've written. Extract number 1, the courier was late. Jed felt anxious and nervous. The parcel in his hands was heavy. He walked away eventually, but someone was following. So, extract 2. Jed looked at his watch. He'd been told to meet at 7, and it was already past. His palms started to feel a little bit sweaty. He could feel his foot nervously tapping on the ground beneath him on the pavement as he anxiously eyed the passers-by, wondering if this one or that one might be the person he was supposed to meet. In his hands, the brown paper parcel weighed him down. He had moved what was in it, of course. He had packed it. It had no right to be as heavy as it felt. He didn't dare to set it down. Eventually, as the clock ticked further and further along, first an hour passed, then an hour and a half. And sighing, he turned round, parcel awkwardly under his arm, and strode away. A faint tap, tap, tap behind him. Ever so irregularly, he could hear his own footsteps, but ever so split second after he put a foot down, he could hear another footstep behind him. So which of those extracts sounds better? Now, the second one does something that the first extract doesn't do. So the first extract, I was telling you all this. I was sort of saying, well, the courier's late, or I was saying Jed felt nervous, or the parcel was heavy, or he walked away, etc., etc., etc. The second extract, I didn't actually do that. Instead, I sort of described someone sort of waiting for someone. I described how someone might be if they're feeling anxious and nervous. I described how something heavy might feel if you're holding on to it, and of course, someone following. And that is the core idea behind showing and not telling. You want to engage your reader. You don't want to completely confuse and baffle your reader, but your reader does need to be doing some of the work themselves. They need to be inferring from what you've written what's going on. Now, if you think about it, in real life, when you look at the clock, you don't get a little voice in your head really pop up and go, oh, you're late. You look at the clock and go, You sort of instinctively think that, don't you? You infer from the clock, from the time on the clock. There's no real thought in your head that just sort of says, like the word of God sort of thing, you are late. You just look at the clock, you know you're late. So again, we'd focus, when we're writing, we focus on showing. You know, we don't just tell the reader something, we show them. You know, don't tell the reader that the room is messy. Show them that the room is messy. Describe the piles of clothes on the floor, that sort of thing. So let's have a quick look here at the worksheet. Okay, and as you can see here, we've got a different extract that I sort of gave you from the one we had at the start of the video. Just have a quick look through it for me, really. So you might want to pause and have a quick look through it. And just tell me, just think about what you think about this. So yeah, with the telling sort of side of things, we get some information, don't we? But we're just sort of told it, really. Whereas with this one, the showing side of things, we get a bit more detail, puts us a bit more in the picture. So what I'd like it to do now, actually, again, is I'm going to ask it to pause the video in a second, and I'd like it to read through the showing bit here, and I want you to tell me whether I actually come out and say, for instance, in this bit here where I'm talking about him being scared, do I ever say here that he's scared? Do I ever say here that it's cold, he's feeling cold? Do I ever say here that it's getting late? Do I ever say here that there are wild animals in the forest? And do I ever say here that he's lost? Pause the video and let me know. Yeah, I don't. You've inferred that. You would read this bit here. So the sunset flooding the fields beyond the forest, and light filtering through, and the sun slowly sinking below the horizon. You can infer from that that it's getting late. You know. You can infer from this bit here that there might be animals in the forest. You can infer from this bit that he's lost, etc., etc. Something else I hope you've noticed as well here is that, unlike in this column where I'm just telling you, showing allows me also to engage all those senses. So, for instance, I've got the sense of sort of sensations here, feeling, his heart beating in his chest, his legs feeling like they're turning rubber. And again here, cold and stuff like that. And you've got a sense of smell here and sound. So yeah, showing also gives us an opportunity to build upon, sort of working all of those different senses into it. And when I sort of ask you to do your final task for this bit, I would like you to include some of those different senses as well, not just what can be seen. So yeah, I mean, as I said here, key points here really should be that I never really mention explicitly, so I never come out and say what's going on exactly. I allow the reader to infer it. And also, it's no longer straightforward. I've sort of described the effects of cold weather. It's a bit more engaging. I feel more like I'm actually here. I feel more like this is almost happening to me. And again, psychology of story writing and the psychology of reading. When we start reading a book, our protagonist is us. The person this stuff is happening to is us. That's how we start reading. Whoever, sort of like, especially first person, but that person who all this stuff is happening to is us. As the story goes on, of course, as we read more, we sort of have that separation between the main character and us, and that's perfectly natural, and that's fine. But that's sort of how we get hooked on it. That's why we like stories about people, because we sort of, on some level, identify or empathize with, or at least understand. And to understand a character, we use our empathy, and we can do that a lot easier if we've got more information coming through. Okay, and that does include all of the senses. So what I'd like you to do for this task, for this video, is I've given you a little paragraph here, and it's just telling. And I'd like you to turn that into a text which is showing instead. Now, before I sort of end this here, really, one thing to bear in mind here is sometimes you do have to tell. Sometimes you just need to get a message across quickly, and sometimes it's useful for dramatic effect. Like starting a story with "he was late," full stop. That can be quite a dramatic hook, can't it, really? But a lot of the time, we really want to focus on showing the reader what's going on here, engaging with those senses, rather than simply telling the reader this is what it is. Okay, it's the difference between reporting something and actually telling a story. So once you've done that, obviously, please do save it, send it through. And that is the end of the second video.